Hi, I'm Dave Cohn. Welcome to our video series for Professional GBS. This is the first of 4 modules on operations. In this session, we will cover the introduction to the operations model. We will also highlight critical to quality metrics. It's important to start with the foundations modules first before you come to this one. It's so important to run your GBS as a business. Your service managers are thinking like brand managers and ensuring the service stays relevant into the future. We are taking feedback from our clients, users, and our own operations to generate the most important transformation. Service operations is at the core of everything we do in a professional GBS. The operations leader is analogous to a plant manager. The operations leader needs to improve service quality and lead continual improvement. Only through quality operations can we maintain our service equity and have the right to play and win in service transformations. Think about your last hotel visit. They may have had the best locations, the nicest staff, and the best amenities. However, if your room isn't clean when you arrive, then you probably won't want to stay there again. It's the same with your GBS operations. Next, let's talk about the operations model. This is a great way to view your GBS operations. First, we start with operations planning. Here, you are defining your objectives, setting metrics that are critical to quality, and developing and maintaining strong process documentation, and ensuring you have sufficient staffing to meet business needs. Next, you need to think about operations control. Here, we need to apply the best practices in daily management and understand the urgency of incident management and the importance of finding root causes to problems. The third step in this model is continuous improvement. Here, we can apply the best techniques from Six Sigma and Lean for increased quality, faster speed, and lower cost. This is just like the famous Edward Deming's plan, do, check, act cycle. Let's look closer at select concepts for operations planning. First, we will highlight the role of the team leader and discuss all the activities they could be doing as well as those they ideally should focus on. Next, we will talk about defining objectives for your operations and how the critical to quality approach can help you select and refine your measures. The operations team leader is a foundational role in a GBS organization. We can see all the potential activities that a team leader can be working on. Of course, they need to understand the needs of the users and incident trends. It's possible for the team leader to get too involved with the day-to-day executional activities. However, it's critical that the team leaders prioritize their time on their people. By encouraging cooperation, productivity, and team unity, they can create high-performing teams that can deliver even greater results. In fact, Deming eventually revised his plan, do, check, act cycle and replaced check with study. A talented leader can create a culture where the team owns and improves their own results. Next, we will move into developing measures. Critical to quality, or CTQ, is a great technique from Six Sigma to develop your metrics. With it, you are looking at the quality of a product or service from the voice of the customer. This is so valuable in a services world. For example, your customer may say, "I want a perfect report," but that directive is way too general. So we will talk about how you can drill down from broad customer requirements to specific measures. For awareness, translating the voice of the customer is easier on transactional services where the outcomes are more specific or determined. If you have a service that is more analytical or project-based, this exercise will be a bit more challenging. So you start with the voice of the customer. What do they want? You then break it down into criteria. And finally, critical to quality metrics. Let's look at an example. Your customer may say, "I want a perfect report." You can then break that down. What's the user experience? That could cover color coding, businesses to track. What does accurate mean to them? Is it complete? With all their measures, is it their definition of timely? A good example is we thought we were delivering a report on a timely basis at 8 a.m., but the customer wanted it when they woke up at 6 a.m. By getting specific, you can meet that objective of a perfect report. Talk with your customers, understand their objectives, and break that down into elements that are critical to quality. Throughput is a valuable concept to look at in your service. Here, you can think about the processes you cover and its connection to company revenue. You may ask yourself what metrics that you own can create even more value for the company. For example, in accounts payable, if you can reduce the days to make invoices ready to pay, you may be able to generate supplier discounts. One final point on your measures is the difference between process and output measures. For example, in soccer, we may be looking at shots on goals as an important indicator of our offense. However, only goals will bring victory. It's important to track those in-process measures since they are great indicators of operational health. However, it's generally a best practice to only report the key outcome metrics to your business. It doesn't get any more exciting than process documentation. But seriously, process documentation is so important, but an area where many organizations often don't prioritize to do or keep current. From my experience, documented processes enable you to run the process with consistency, have continuity as resources change, especially if it's an unexpected change. Serves as a foundation for improvement. You can't improve what you don't understand. Here are best practices. You have an owner that exists for overall process management. All processes are defined and documented. Each individual process has an identified owner. At times, you may need to reach out to the business to get an assigned owner. All linkages across process groups are established. Processes are monitored and continually improved. Finally, records of changes are maintained. A word of caution as you do your process mapping. What you think the process is very often called the happy path. However, what it actually is often much more complex. Perhaps the address was entered wrong on a purchase order, or the date was entered wrong in a customer input form, or maybe the internet connection was lost for a user, and so on. So as you do your process mapping, it's important to work with the people doing the work to understand all the defects and exceptions, as handling them will be critical to driving efficiency. Here's a recap of our key messages. Planning, control, and improvement are the key steps of the operational model. Ensure your team leaders are spending sufficient time in building high-performing teams. Listen to the voice of your customer and develop a meaningful set of measures. Understand your processes and keep the documentation up to date. We hope you enjoyed this session in our Professional GBS series. All the best as you professionalize, modernize, and transform.